Coming up next, we're flipping the record over to uncover some of the greatest surprise hits of the rock era. That's right, it's a revenge of the B-sides. You know, the redheaded stepchildren of rock, songs that weren't good enough to make it onto an album, only good enough to back a hit single. Well, as you'll see, today's entries can more than hold their own. In fact, we got a great story about a drummer who believed in his song so much, he actually locked himself in a cupboard and refused to come out until the band agreed to pair it with their biggest hit. And it paid off royally. See what I mean next? And then there's the breakup ballad. Oh, heartbreaking. That a 70s enchantress wrote for her band's Blockbuster album, but her bandmates axed it at the last second. 2 decades later, it climbed the charts and became one of their most beloved tracks. And then there's an obscure B-side with lyrics that changed every time it was sung. Nobody knows what the real lyrics are. The fans campaigned to get it airplay, and in the process, it made it one of the band's most iconic songs. Next up, it's a top 10 B-sides that defied the doubters and made it big on Professor of Rock. Hey, music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. You know, if you ever had a meal cooked for you in an easy bake oven, you're going to dig this channel of deep musical nostalgia. Make sure to subscribe below right now. I know you'll find something to dig here. Also, check out our podcast on Apple and Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Rate us and follow us there. I think you're going to dig today's episode. It was so fun putting it together. The greatest B-sides in rock history. You know, those overlooked flip sides that started in the shadows but found their way into the spotlight somehow. I mean, some were written out by record executives, others by the bands themselves. But these tracks outlasted the naysayers to become fan obsessions, live staples, even chart toppers. Let's get into it. Kicking things off at number 10, we're basically starting with a hostage negotiation scenario. The song, Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody. The B-side, I'm in love with my car. So here's the story. I'm in Love with My Car was written by drummer Roger Taylor as a tongue-in-cheek tribute to roadsters and the gearhead lifestyle. Supposedly inspired by Queen's roadie Jonathan Harris and his Triumph TR4. Now, Taylor played most of the instruments on the track himself and even sang lead vocals. The song revs up with engine sounds and explodes into a theatrical glam rock anthem that could easily be parody. Think about it. If it weren't delivered with such sincerity, it would be. Said Roger about it, it was supposed to be a joke, but it wasn't really. I really do love cars. And Roger desperately wanted to make it the B-side of their next single, which just so happened to be Bohemian Rhapsody. But not everybody in Queen was on the same page with him. Compared to Freddie's magnum opus, I'm in Love with My Car, it just felt like a novelty track. Still, Taylor believed in the song so much that he locked himself in a cupboard at the studio, and he refused to come out until the band agreed to release it as the B-side. In the end, Taylor's stubbornness, it paid off big time. His car-obsessed rocker, it became the official flip side to one of the biggest songs in rock history, if not the biggest. And because Queen split royalties evenly between A-sides and B-sides, Taylor collected a massive chunk of change riding the coattails of Bohemian Rhapsody's success. The royalty split meant he earned just as much as Freddie did for the single. Understandably, this didn't sit well with Freddie Mercury. The tension shimmered for years, and I'm in Love with My Car became emblematic of the band's internal rivalries. Freddie reportedly joked about it bitterly, and the incident was even dramatized in the 2018 Bohemian Rhapsody biopic.
It's a metaphor, Brian.
It's just a bit weird, Roger. What exactly are you doing with that car?
I mean, it wasn't just about the money. It was about pride and creative control within one of rock's most ambitious bands. Still, you gotta admire Roger Taylor's audacity. He fought for a song that most bands would have buried, and he turned it into millions and millions of dollars. Some songs start out as afterthoughts, but end up taking center stage, and that was the case with my number 9 pick, U2's Sweetest Thing. It's a playful piano-driven pop tune that was originally released in 1987 as a B-side confessional on the single Where the Streets Have No Name. While this A-side was all spiritual grandeur and wide open Americana, the flip side was something else completely. A short burst of romantic humility. Sweetest Thing wasn't designed to be a hit at all. Rather, it was written as an apology from Bono to his wife Allie for forgetting her birthday during the creation of the Joshua Tree when he was really busy. It was a private peace offering to the woman he loved since they were teenagers. And even though U2 left it off the Joshua Tree, they didn't want the song to disappear completely, so they made it a B-side. And through the years, Sweetest Thing became a cult favorite, circulating on bootlegs and fan compilations. It was a rare, simple and down-to-earth U2 moment without the politics or the grand themes they were used to. Just a guy who screwed up royally trying to make things right with his girl and had to come up with a creative birthday present on the fly. Now, more than a decade later, U2 decided to give the song its due. This was for their 1998 Best of 1980 to 1990 compilation. They re-recorded Sweetest Thing from scratch and turned it into a full-fledged single. They even filmed an over-the-top music video in Dublin with Bono orchestrating an elaborate apology for Allie. Literally, 11 years later. As she sat in a horse-drawn carriage, Bono paraded out a boy band, or Irish step dancers, a marching band, firemen, and even an elephant. All in a comedic bid to win her forgiveness. Said Bono, and I quote, "Everything in this video was for Allie. Those were her things." The re-release paid off big time. Sweetest Thing became a top 10 hit in multiple countries, peaking at number 3 in the UK and number 4 in the US alternative charts. But more than that, it became a fan favorite and a regular part of U2's legacy. Never quite felt like the rest of U2's catalog, but really that was the point. All right, so at number 8 on the countdown, I've got a song that I don't care for personally myself, but it's got a great story and it was a huge hit. I couldn't resist, so I threw it here. Green Day's Good Riddance, Time of Your Life.
I hope you had the time of your life.
Now, in 1997, Green Day shocked fans with a song that sounded like it came from really some other band. Good Riddance was a stripped-down acoustic offering.
Lesson learned in time, it's something unpredictable.
Despite it being off-brand, it became one of Green Day's most popular songs. But what a lot of people don't know is that before Good Riddance became a go-to graduation anthem or a prom theme, it was released as a B-side many years earlier. You can find it buried behind the adrenaline and feedback of Green Day's 1995 single Brain Stew Jaded. Billy Joe Armstrong actually wrote the song even earlier than that, back in 1993 during the Dookie sessions. This was after his girlfriend up and moved to Ecuador. He named the track Good Riddance as a bitter kiss-off to her.
I hope you had the time of your life.
However, sonically, Good Riddance didn't fit the bratty, loud image that the band was cultivating at the time. So when it came time to release Brain Stew, they quietly slipped Good Riddance onto the CD single as a B-side. No promotion, it was just kind of there. Over time, though, the track began to build a quiet following. So when Green Day recorded Nimrod in 1997, they gave it a second life, adding a string arrangement and the subtitle Time of Your Life. It was released as the album's second single and it became an unlikely hit. It went all the way to number 2 on the alternative airplay chart and number 7 on the mainstream rock chart. It quickly transcended genre lines and even found its way onto the Seinfeld retrospective in 1998. The song, it was such a sonic departure for the band that record stores reported a high rate of returns from new Green Day customers who purchased the Nimrod album expecting similar songs. But of course, the song wasn't written to be sentimental. As Billy Joe explained to Rolling Stone a time ago, it's about trying to be cool, accepting that in life people go in different directions, but they seem to go out of your life as quickly as they came in. Okay, so coming in at number 7, I got the Beatles B-side, I'm the Walrus. And only the Beatles could bury a psychedelic masterpiece on the back of a single, and then have it become one of the most obsessively analyzed tracks in rock history. So back in 1967, they released the upbeat radio-ready Hello Goodbye as their next single. It was a song that Paul McCartney had crafted to charm the charts. Typical McCartney fare, very catchy song.
Say goodbye, I say hello, hello, hello.
But lurking on the B-side was something completely different. Something much more interesting, I have to say. I Am the Walrus. The song was unlike anything else on the airwaves, and although Hello Goodbye went to number 1, its B-side left a more lasting legacy in my opinion, mesmerizing listeners for decades.
I don't know why you say goodbye, I say hello. He as you are me, and we are all together.
John Lennon wrote I Am the Walrus kind of out of spite. After hearing that his old school was analyzing Beatles lyrics in English class, Lennon decided to scramble the whole system. So in John Lennon fashion, he deliberately wrote Walrus to be complete and utter nonsense. Yellow matter custard dripping from a dead dog's eye, sitting on a cornflake, and a reference to elementary penguins.
Sitting on a cornflake.
Now, some lines came from a poem he'd written as a teenager. Others were just lifted from Lewis Carroll. Was it a prank? Was it a protest? An acid flashback? I'll let you decide. But Lennon wasn't just tossing out randomness for the sake of it. In an interview with Playboy magazine, Lennon explained that the lyrics were a dig at people blindly following spiritual trends, in particular the Hare Krishna movement. And even in its most absurd moments, I Am the Walrus was Lennon channeling his wit and skepticism through a kaleidoscope of words and sound, as only John Lennon could.
Pornographic priestess, boy, you've been a naughty girl, you let your niggas down.
When it came time to choose which song got the A-side treatment, Hello Goodbye or I Am the Walrus, it was no surprise Walrus was relegated to the B-side. And Lennon, he was furious. He believed I Am the Walrus was by far the superior song, and it kind of was, even though Hello Goodbye was catchier.
You say goodbye, and I say hello.
History may have proved him right, though. I Am the Walrus became a touchstone of the Beatles' psychedelic phase. It was featured in the Magical Mystery Tour film and later included on the US version of the album. I mean, musically, it was way ahead of its time. Layered with strings, fuzz bass, choir, and tape loops.
Don't come, you get to 10 from standing in the English rain.
Its sonic ambition somehow matched its lyrical anarchy. And what began as a joke aimed at literary overthinkers became one of the Beatles' most enduring artistic statements. Gotta love I Am the Walrus. Coming in at number 6 is Rod the Mod Stewart, Sir Rod Stewart with Maggie May.
Maggie, I couldn't have tried anymore.
A song inspired by the woman who, how should I say it on here without getting in trouble, deflowered Rod at age 16. 2007, Rod confessed Maggie May was more or less a true story about the first woman he, did it with. He said the encounter was over in a few seconds and the emotional fallout lingered long after that, long after the music stopped.
You stole my heart, and that's what really hurts.
Though she wasn't actually named Maggie, this older woman, Stewart used that as a stand-in. Now, what started out as a deeply personal recollection ended up becoming one of the biggest songs of the 70s, although it almost never got the chance. I mean, when Maggie May was released in 1971, it was tucked away as the B-side to Reason to Believe. That track was a more traditional ballad, and it was a safe bet for radio, especially for a rookie coming in.
I look to find a reason to believe.
On the other hand, though, Maggie May was rambling. It was unconventional. It didn't even have a chorus, and yet DJs started flipping the single over. One by one, radio stations began spinning that B-side instead, drawn to Stewart's raspy vocal, and a great story there. Within weeks, Maggie May overtook the A-side completely. The song quickly rocketed to number 1, and Rod Stewart's breakthrough as a solo artist became big time.
To a lover and mother, what a lover, you wore me out.
Spent 5 weeks at the top of the Hot 100 and became the centerpiece of his Every Picture Tells a Story album, which also went to number 1. Now, Rod was stunned by its success, saying, I still can't believe that song hit number 1. It was so long, didn't really have a hook, but there's something about it that connected. What connected was its vulnerability. This was a song about being in over your head and being too proud to admit it until it was too late.
Couldn't have tried anymore.
I mean, this was truly confessional. It was more like a diary entry than a number 1 hit. Or as Rod admitted, one of his most embarrassing moments. I mean, really, the song is about premature... I can't say it on here. You know what I mean. What makes Maggie May truly special, though, isn't that it just, topped the charts. It's that it did it after being dismissed as a B-side. A song that Stewart himself thought was too rambling and too personal, and it ended up launching one of the most successful solo careers in rock history. You gotta love it. Halfway through the countdown at number 5, we've got probably the funniest story on this countdown. It's a B-side that was put into the spotlight by a group of fans. It's Pearl Jam's Yellow Ledbetter. Now, originally recorded during the sessions for 10 in 1991, the song was too out of step with the rest of the album to make the final cut for sure. Instead, it was released in 1992 as a B-side to the band's breakout single, Jeremy. There was no push from the label, there was no video, no radio strategy for it, but it slowly began building DIY momentum thanks to a devoted fan base. And it ultimately became one of Pearl Jam's most beloved songs. Guitarist Mike McCready, channeling his inner Hendrix, came up with the song's bluesy emotional riff in just one take. And Eddie Vedder, true to his improvisational instincts, just made up the lyrics as they went along. And this is where it gets really funny. Said McCready, and I quote, "It came out of a jam in the studio, and Ed didn't really have any lyrics. He came up with some ideas right there on the spot, and that's exactly what we recorded. But as it turns out, there are no official lyrics to Yellow Ledbetter, because Eddie Vedder never sings it the same way twice." Now, the story behind the song, as Eddie explained years later in concert, was inspired by the death of a soldier in the Gulf War. A flannel-clad young man with long hair received a yellow letter telling him his brother had died. In a daze, he went for a walk and waved to a couple sitting on a porch with an American flag seeking a moment of connection. But they didn't wave back because of what he looked like. It's a story of grief and misjudgment, really. Vedder would also say that the lyrics shift with his mood and sometimes drift into total nonsense. But the heart of the song remains. Now, have you ever seen the LinkedIn version? It's so hilarious. It's great. Despite never appearing on a studio album or being released as an A-side, Yellow Ledbetter became a cult favorite. By the mid-90s, fans were holding up signs at shows, begging to hear the song. Radio stations began spinning it organically, and it appeared on the Daughter Live single in 1993. Now, eventually, Pearl Jam embraced its sleeper success and began using it to close concerts, turning it into a soulful send-off. From its obscure B-side beginnings to its status as a live show closer, Yellow Ledbetter was never meant to be a hit. And maybe that's why it hits so hard. Man, what a song. And it just doesn't have any official lyrics. I love that. All right, coming in at number 4 in the countdown is one of the greatest B-sides to ever flip the script. In 1969, the Rolling Stones released The Swaggering Honky Tonk Women as a single. It was a barroom romp loaded with pure jukebox magic. But hiding on the other side of that record was something radically different. You can't always get what you want. It opened with the voices of a children's choir and unfolded into a 7-minute epic about disillusionment and hard-earned truth. Where the A-side was all attitude, the B-side was all rock and roll philosophy. Jagger and Keith Richards wrote the song as a response to the growing chaos of the late 60s that everybody was experiencing, including them, of course. It was a time of protest and generational divides, and the Stones distilled that mood into a deceptively simple phrase. You can't always get what you want. Jagger sang it like a knowing older sibling, sympathetic, but blunt.
You can't always get what you want.
But the song's brilliance was in the turn. If you try sometimes, you just might find you get what you need. So prophetic. It was a reminder that disappointment didn't always mean defeat.
You might find you get what you need.
Now, producer Jimmy Miller had the idea to add a choir, specifically the London Bach Choir, a respected British choral group with ties to the Anglican Church. The band thought the idea was pretty absurd. That is until they heard the playback. The choir's ethereal voices gave the song a spiritual prelude. However, when the choir realized what the song was actually about, drug use, casual sex, and the Stones' typical debauchery, they wanted nothing to do with it. The choir formally requested that their name be removed from the album's credits, but it was too late. Their voices were already immortalized on tape. Of course, when You Can't Always Get What You Want first appeared, it didn't chart. The A-side got all the attention, but fans kept flipping the record over, and the word spread. The full-length version closed out Let It Bleed later that year, and over time the track became a live staple and really a cultural touchstone. Even bigger when it was in the 1983 film The Big Chill, and of course all the iconic covers. I think Keith Richards summed it up best, simply. He says, like a good old saying, and maybe that's why it's endured. It may have started out as an afterthought, but You Can't Always Get What You Want gave the world exactly what it needed. All right, we're closing in on the top spot. We've made it all the way to number 3, and for this one, I've got a band that never really played the singles game. The mighty Led Zeppelin. That, of course, was by design. If you've seen the latest documentary, you know that as well. Most of their biggest songs weren't released as 45s in the US. They rarely included B-sides that weren't already on an album. But in 1970, they made an exception. Atlantic Records released Immigrant Song as a single, and they paired it with a non-album B-side, Hey Hey What Can I Do? At that time, it was the only Zeppelin song released in the US that didn't appear on a studio album. That's a fact. That made it a collector's item almost instantly and a serious cult favorite among hardcore Zeppelin fans. Musically, Hey Hey What Can I Do? It showcased a different side of this band. It's such a great song. There's no bombast here, just acoustic guitars and a down-home groove. Lyrically, Robert Plant's spinning a melancholy tale about a woman who strays while he tries to stay true. And you know, I swear, if they would have released this during the singer-songwriter era, this would have been a number 1 hit. I am sure of it. Despite never appearing on a Zeppelin LP, Hey Hey What Can I Do endured through word of mouth and also tape trading. Remember when we used to do that? Fans who missed the original 45 had to wait decades to hear it properly, though. It wasn't released on CD until 1990 when it appeared on the Led Zeppelin box set. And it didn't show up on vinyl again until the complete studio recordings in 1993. Then when Coda was reissued in 2015, the track finally found a proper home in the Zeppelin canon. And by then, it had long since become a fan favorite, one of the biggest favorites of the fans. Today, Hey Hey What Can I Do is one of the most beloved deep cuts in Zeppelin's catalog. Proof that even Zeppelin's throwaways are better than most bands' greatest hits. That's a fact. All right, coming into the bridesmaid position, it's the B-side to the Doobie Brothers' 1974 single, Another Park, Another Sunday. One of the greats, Blackwater. A swampy acoustic tune that felt like it came out of a back porch jam session. Of course, written and sung by guitarist Patrick Simmons, Blackwater had a relaxed Louisiana flavor, half bayou groove, half river hymn. And honestly, at the time, no one in the band or at the label thought it had any hit potential. But Blackwater had a different kind of magic.
Moon, won't you keep on shining on me? Blackwater, keep on.
I mean, its lyrics felt like they'd been ripped from the pages of Mark Twain's Huck Finn. It romanticized the Mississippi River with a warm homespun charm, I'd like to hear some funky Dixieland, Pretty Mama Come and Take Me by the Hand. How many people have sung that?
Dixieland, pretty mama, come and take me by the hand. By the hand.
I mean, Simmons croons this thing, channeling the soul of the American South. The song's musical DNA traced back to earlier Doobie tracks, like, Black-Eyed Cajun Woman. But then a radio station in Roanoke, Virginia changed everything. Without label prompting, without anything, a DJ just started spinning Black Water. One story claims it was just a total accident. He just played the wrong side of the record. But listeners loved it. The track gained traction on southern airwaves and began creeping north. Frontman Tom Johnston recalled, that could have happened back then, but it could never happen now, and he's exactly right. Somebody in Minneapolis heard the song and decided to follow suit, and Blackwater became a full-on radio movement. Its momentum couldn't be stopped. It was like wildfire. Eventually, Warner Brothers caught up to the buzz and gave Blackwater its own A-side release in November of '74, months after the album dropped. Man, it pushed the album up the charts. On March 15, 1975, Blackwater hit #1 on the Hot 100. Now, the band was actually in Baton Rouge when the news came down. Johnston remembered congratulating Simmons backstage just before they went on. What a great thing to go on to a show. Well, once it had been buried on the B-side, was now being shouted back by thousands of fans each night they would perform. Blackwater had become the band's first chart-topping single, and it's a testament to how the fans can rewrite the rules. RocK's Huck Finn, sidelined by industry instincts, floated his way to the top by sheer listener love, just like Yellow Ledbetter. So let's name the chart topper, and this was an easy one for me. This B-side was put on ice in the 70s, and it came back with a vengeance in the 90s, so haunting. I got Silver Springs by Fleetwood Mac.
You could be my silver spring.
One of the most impressive musical comebacks of the rock era. Of course, written by Stevie Nicks after her breakup with Lindsey Buckingham, Silver Springs was a poetic, pointed farewell. Nicks actually imagined a scenario where Lindsey moved on, while she trailed just behind, forever echoing in his mind. As she sang it, I'll follow you down till the sound of my voice will haunt you. It was a message meant to linger, and it sure as hell did. Silver Springs, it didn't make it onto the Blockbuster LP rumors, despite being written and recorded during those legendary sessions. How could they not put it on? It was bumped for a shorter track, ironically another Stevie Nicks pen tune, I don't want to know. Vinyl limitations were the excuse, but Stevie, she never forgave that decision. As a consolation prize, the band pushed Silver Springs onto the B-side of Go Your Own Way. That was Lindsey's own kiss-off song to her. I mean, talk about rock irony. The A-side was Lindsey's vitriol toward Stevie, calling her a tramp, basically, and the B-side was Stevie's ultimate middle finger back to him. For my money, I'll take Silver Springs. Man, what a haunting song. But for nearly 20 years, Silver Springs stayed buried, getting only modest play on FM radio and rare performances during their 1977 European tour. But then it finally saw daylight in 1992 on the Chain box set. But it was in May 1997 Silver Springs finally punched its ticket all time on Fleetwood Mac's live album, The Dance.
You could be my silver spring.
One of the greatest live performances ever, the record was a moment captured in time. Done in one night, the concert was recorded for Fleetwood Mac's MTV The Dance special in Burbank, California. Oh, one of the great performances. On stage, Stevie Nicks sang Silver Springs to Lindsey Buckingham with a fire that had been simmering for decades. You could cut the sexual tension with a knife. Mid-performance, she turned to him, locking eyes, practically willing the lyrics into his soul. It was so badass. Said Nicks in a 2009 interview, "It was me realizing that Lindsey was going to haunt me for the rest of my life." And he has. Silver Springs was released as a live single later in July of 97 and climbed its way up multiple charts. Went to number 22 on the adult pop airplay chart, number 16 on the adult alternative chart, and number 5 on the AC chart. But man, such a haunting song. Since then, it's only continued to grow even more popular. Once buried under the weight of vinyl imitations and band politics, Silver Springs ultimately claimed its rightful place among the best that Fleetwood Mac has ever offered. Truly one of the most haunting songs of all time.
Be my Silver Spring.
Oh, Stevie just kills it on that song. What do you think? That's our top 10 of B-sides. Did I leave any out? I left out How Soon Is Now because it really didn't chart, even though it's my favorite B-side of all time. But let's have a great discussion below. What are your memories of these songs? What do you think about Silver Springs? That performance, I love it so much. One of the greatest B-sides ever. That's why we named it number 1. What other B-sides should we cover? We could do another top 10 list because there's so many great B-sides. Let's have a great discussion below. If you like our content, we invite you to subscribe. We would love to have you as part of our community. Till next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends.